Hello, fellow button mashers, and welcome to the Fighting Game Archives, a show in which I take a look at games in my fighting game collection and show you my thoughts and opinions of games that I personally love. In our last episode, we have talked about the great Street Fighter 2, in which that I've hinted of a game that SNK has worked on to rival against Capcom's greatest creation. It is a game in which the story is the forefront of its inception. It's one of the most beloved series in SNK's library, and the Legend of the Hungry Wolf continues on into the modern age. So grab your trucker hats, ready your quarters, and crack shoot your way into Southtown as we take a look at Fatal Fury, SNK's answer to Street Fighter. Now, Fatal Fury runs in SNK's very own arcade hardware, known as the Neo Geo MVS. It is a cartridge-based arcade system that allows for arcade owners to switch to games more seamlessly than traditional arcade hardware. The games that came out in this machine are widely known for its outstanding graphics and sound, with hits such as Metal Slug and Samurai Showdown that hit the scene in the early to mid-90s, which I'll cover one of these days. Now, before I can talk about Fatal Fury's gameplay, I'll first have to talk about the story of the game. The game takes place in the early 1990s in a fictional city known as Southtown, which is the game's depiction of Miami, Florida. Southtown is ruled by a mob boss known as Geese Howard, and he's the sole reason why the events that transpired after took place. He had started a tournament known as the King of Fighters, which invites great fighters to duke it out on the streets of Southtown, with Geese rewarding whoever comes out from this tournament of starving wolves unscathed. Already, this is a vast improvement when it comes to fleshing out the lore in the world of fighting games, as when the game is planned to release in the arcades, SNK did their best effort to promote the game with its story, which makes gamers get hooked on finding out what happens next. In this game, we have three main characters to choose from, the brothers Terry and Andy Bogard, and Joe Higashi. Terry is the main character of the game. His backstory revolves around the murder of his foster father, Jeff Bogard, with the murder committed by the mob boss himself, Geese Howard. Terry and Andy went on their separate ways to train, and one day come back to Southtown and take revenge against Geese for their father's death. Terry Bogard taught himself how to fight with his own unique fighting style by gathering ki from the earth and using its power to hit opponents with bone-breaking and earth-shaking techniques. Andy Bogard is the second playable character in Fatal Fury, and he is trained in the Shiranui fighting style. With moves that are quick and precise, his fighting style is the polar opposite of Terry's explosive techniques. Lastly, there's Joe Higashi. He is a Muay Thai martial artist that Terry and Andy met during the tournament and has tagged along to help them fight against the mighty Geese Howard. Now that you're caught up with the lore of Fatal Fury, we can finally talk about the gameplay. The first game is played only using 3 buttons, for punch, kick, and grab. Specials in this game are learned through the game's arcade mode, as the moves are shown to you after the bonus rounds whenever you beat a certain amount of stages. Now, there is one unique thing that this game has that no other fighting game has at the time. It has a second plane to fight on. Fatal Fury's gimmick is the lane system, in which you can switch between the foreground and the background during fights. The game uses this to allow for more depth in the combat. However, that innovation is also kind of a detriment, as fights began to feel pretty awkward when the CPU just keeps jumping in and out of lanes and you can't help but whiff your attacks. Other than that, the game has this unmistakable 90s energy, with your character sprite traveling to different locations in Southtown to beat up the people that join this tournament. As you progress through the game, Geese gets progressively more and more irritated each time you cleared out more and more opponents, slowly getting a taste of that sweet revenge with each win under your belt. If you manage to clear everything standing in your way, Geese is waiting for you in his own tower, and with nowhere left to go, it is time to face the mob boss himself.
I don't think this is gonna be as bad of a fight. I mean, it's an old game, so... Oh shit! That's a fast fireball! Okay. Why is this way slower? Wait, what am I supposed to do here? Geese! Oh my god, calm down! That was fast! What? What am I supposed to do?
Believe me when I say that this is one of the cheapest bosses that I've ever fought, as Geese is one of the first examples of SNK boss syndrome. Arcades back in the 90s make their money on continues and retries, deliberately making the game difficult so more quarters are put into the machine. It is literally pay to win, but you still have to work for your win to even count. Its theme, Soy Sauce for Geese, is one of the greatest boss themes to ever come out of SNK, as it is remixed when Geese came over to Tekken 7 and as a guest appearance in Smash Bros. Ultimate. Geese is a force to be reckoned with his signature moves being Repuken, Double Repuken, and the almighty Raging Storm. Defeating Geese rewards you with this cutscene of him falling to his death from his own tower, and this isn't the last time that this would happen. Fatal Fury's first game is certainly leagues better than Capcom's first attempt, but it does fall short when it's compared to the legendary Street Fighter 2, as the game only has 3 playable characters and multiplayer is more or less a 2v1 game mode to make the game easier to defeat opponents. Likewise, the game's 90s vibe is certainly a fresh take on the genre, as it shows that the devs actually care a lot for this game to succeed. Around a year later, the game would get a sequel that brings in more characters, a special mechanic that has burst super moves, and a more powerful villain. This is Fatal Fury 2. Fatal Fury 2 was released a year and a month later after the first game hit the arcades. The game's tone has significantly shifted to a more grand stage, as you are now fighting against opponents from across the world. Now, where have I heard of this before? Set a year after the events of Fatal Fury 1, a new Big Bad has announced a new King of Fighters tournament. The game has now upped the roster count with a total of 8 playable characters, with fan favorites such as Mai Shiranui and Kim Kapwan introduced in this game. The game's controls are slightly shifted here compared to the first. You have now 4 buttons you can use to attack. With light and heavy punch and kicks, you can now switch lanes with the button combination of light punch and light kick, with heavy punch and heavy kick as a way to do hard attacks and sending the opponent to the other lane. Finally, the game has added a brand new mechanic that sets it apart from other button bashers at the time. When you or your opponent are in low health, you can do what's known as a desperation move. They are the first instances of supers used in a fighting game. The game's presentation has slightly regressed as the game's vibe is going for this World Warrior-esque look, but overall, the gameplay has slightly improved from its predecessor. It is literally just Street Fighter 2, but with a gimmick carried over from Fatal Fury 1. The similarities haven't stopped there though, as if you beat every playable character in the game, you'll be treated to the 3 sub-boss fights: Billy Kane from the first game, Axel Hawk, and Lawrence Blood. Defeat them and you'll be treated to one of the worst cases of SNK boss syndrome that I've ever faced.
I'll chisel your gravestone. Sleep well.
This man has been the sole reason why I haven't uploaded this goddamn video yesterday, and I had to hold it off since the file size of my recordings are going to blow up my video editor, and on top of that, I had to start from scratch 5 separate times as the CPU from hell is more painful than anything I've ever felt in the last few months. You think Sagat was bad? At least Sagat took me 5 to 6 tries, but him? It took me 5 to 6 hours. And I mean that. 5 different arcade runs, and it took me 5 hours just to beat this goddamn ass. And that's just the boss. The arcade run itself from like 2 days before, that was like another 5 hours that I've wasted. So all in all, it took me like at least 2 days of rest just to beat his ass. And I did it. I did the thing, and I can't describe how much euphoria that I've felt after, like, beating this guy, trying to beat this man. Like, I just can't imagine how anyone's gonna put up with this who doesn't play fighting games. Like, what, in the 90s? Like, people in the 90s, how are you gonna survive this? This is bull, and I just can't say anything else because of how terrible he feels playing against. Putting everything aside, this is Wolfgang Krauser, and is the half-brother to Geese Howard, and like him, his attacks are cheap and busted, with fireballs that go high and low, a very high-hitting X-kick for anti-airs, and the infamous Kaiser Wave. He is one of the most, if not the most infuriating boss in SNK's iconic roster of characters. His theme, Dies Irae, fits his boss fight exceptionally well, as he has his own bloody orchestra playing his theme for him while beating the ever-living crap out of you. Now that I've finally slain the CPU from hell, I shall never open this game ever again. And with that comes the end of our Fatal Fury journey for today. With City of the Wolves still going strong, the legend of the Hungry Wolf is still very much alive. I would like to know your thoughts on Fatal Fury, and if you wanted me to see more videos about the franchise later down the line. Till then, my fellow button mashers, this is your host Blap, and I'll see you all next week. Next week on the Fighting Game Archives.